Welcome back once again, my lords, ladies, and lieges, to another episode of Zodiac Reads. You've already probably seen the video length on this one, so you know we're in for a ride. Don't be fooled, we are still on r/RPG horror stories, with the actual follow-up story relating to a certain person named James from our last story. Not to add even more watch time to this little, two-parter here, but I would recommend watching that part first so you can get a little bit of a context of where this all started. Because like the previous one, I still have some thoughts. Now, if you wouldn't mind sitting down and bearing with me through this behemoth of a story, let's get right into it. How a player ruined 2 campaigns and forced me to take action to save our group. Part 2 of previous post and major Descent into Avernus spoilers. By user NroFee. A few weeks after our Lost Mines game, we started Descent into Avernus, an exciting new adventure into the 9 Hells. Sounds epic, sounds longer than the Lost Mines, and we've cooked up some new characters. So let's jump right into this, well, hell. There were new players with us, all of which had played before, but most of the cast was the same. The DM, same from part 1, still the DM. Me, playing a Dragonborn cleric, and my second character ever. Wasn't that great at first, but was memorable later on, perhaps for the wrong reasons. Fred returns, this time as a shape-shifting person, warlock this time. My brother Kyle came back, this time playing an elf ranger. John also came back, playing his human fighter. Then there was James, supposed to be playing a human paladin. Lastly, another friend of my DM named Trevor joined, playing a tiefling sorcerer. For some reason, James never ended up joining for the majority of the first part of the campaign, leaving the 4 of us to enter Baldur's Gate, which was fine with me. Now, I'll be transparent. I was disappointed since I was planning to show James that I had improved since my first character, and I wasn't going to let myself be bullied whenever he didn't like how I played in response to him trying to be the main character. I never wanted to be antagonistic, but I was going to stand my ground if he ever tried to direct how I played my character by causing harm to them every time. I got better at role-playing, planning in combat, and supporting my team. For a while, it was going really well. Getting into spoilers for Descent into Avernus, if you haven't played it, you've been warned. The first sessions went very well. Everyone liked each other's characters, and the vibe in the group was solid. We got along, and without any drama between me and James. We played very well. Skipping the unimportant bits, we got to the bathhouse dungeon and I found the bag of beans. I play MMORPG games. Finding it wasn't that hard since I know where the loot is hidden in MMOs, lol. This will be very important later. Afterwards, we made our way to the villa, where we found a new party member. Enter Aaron, a human hexblade paladin. His character was pretty cool and he melded with the party easily. In-game, we roleplayed gaining trust with him and he became a valuable member of the party. Also inside the villa, I got the Shield of the Hidden Lord, also a really important item for later. It was also at this time that Trevor dropped out, as well as my brother, leaving only me, Fred, John, and Aaron. This was fine. We got a few new people, only for them to drop out pretty fast. Fast forwarding, completed our quests and finally made our way into the first layer of hell, Avernus. Now in Ethereal, we ended the session. This is when it began. James had returned to the group, and he came in with a new character legendary in our group for being so horrible in so many ways, yet somehow not too bad at the same time. A human artificer. Nothing too bad, I thought. Oh, how wrong I was. James' character was a very joking guy. He made jokes of everything. Us, our combat, the plot, the lore, important moments between characters, important story moments, everything. Before this, the campaign had a serious tone, something established early on. Afterwards, it was like we were playing an acid dream of his creation. The vibe of the group drowned in this, and everyone kind of just trudged on trying to find something interesting now that everything else was tainted in constant sexual jokes and comments. He also had a thing for cutting off the nether regions of male enemies. Always. A devil? He'll take it and describe it in detail. A random human? They're not safe. A zombie? If it's still attached, he'll take it. I hated how the tone of the campaign shifted to sex jokes and in-character moments were all ruined by it. It was horrible, but this wasn't the absolute worst part. He really, really, really liked min-maxing. I have no problem with being effective, it's fine. But this guy wanted everything. His character came with a little fiend pet that could relay information about enemies to him, a portable monster manual. Yes, the DM allowed this, and I have no idea why. But I hold nothing against my DM. He's a good dude who wants everyone to have something to make their character cool. But this is where it gets bad. What do you think James's character did the moment he saw mine? He went to a fiend to get a contract. Red flags everywhere. I knew immediately he wanted to screw me over, but I knew a few things about contracts, so I went with him. The contract would have made it so that if I was ever 60 feet away from him, I'd die and all of my items would go to him. If I died, my party members would die and he would get their items. Fair, right? Totally. But I had a feeling of how contracts worked, so I signed it, on one condition. If he gets 60 feet from me, the contract would be essentially voided. First thing he did after making the contract? He went 80 feet away from me, immediately voiding the contract. But I said nothing, despite knowing it would have never had any effect to begin with since no devil actually signed it, nor did I make a deal with one. But James tried to lord it over me, keeping me on a 60-foot leash at all times, with him telling my character where to go and what to do. I played along, just waiting for him to realize that it didn't matter. He broke the contract, it wasn't signed properly, and it never would have worked. He immediately tried to control and get my character killed for not playing how he wanted again. In the first session of meeting his character, I think he had it out for me. When we got to Gideon's house, we tried to negotiate a deal and learn more about Zariel, the BBEG. James had wandered off to an altar and prayed, and the DM gave him a +1 rifle for rolling high. He immediately used the rifle to shoot Gideon. Roll initiative for no reason. We barely survived and were forced to run thanks to James, who had set his house on fire while running. Gideon hated us now. Great. Later on, James's character drank demon blood. He rolled on the table for wings and longer legs. Now he could fly 60 feet and move 10 feet farther on land. No problem. Fred's character, the warlock, had a flying broom. No one else could fly, so we left scouting for those two. But when we reached further into Thurl, we happened upon a portal to a plane in the abyss. I stupidly touched it and we got pulled in. This was actually beneficial, as my DM used this portal to fuse me with the shield of the Hidden Lord, and the devil locked within. I gained wings and the abilities of the shield as natural abilities now, making it 3 of us could fly. But there was one problem. We now stood before Baphomet himself, the Lord of the Lair of the Abyss. He immediately one-shotted Aaron's character, forcing me to use an elemental gem I'd found earlier to hold him back as we escaped back through the portal. Everyone lived, barely, but Baphomet would not forget the people that escaped him. This will be important later. I should mention that we had Lulu with us, played by another new party member named Eric. Like I said, we got and lost many party members and it was hard to keep track. But Eric was good, and he stayed. Lulu, as anyone who's played the campaign knows, tries avoiding violence and just wants to save her friends. James wanted violence. This led to a few problems, where he actively tried to convert Lulu to evil and put her in harm's way by putting a soul coin bag over her neck to exhaust her. But this was only the beginning of my realizations of how bad this was getting. James had been doing little things all the time, setting up contracts and betraying NPCs. He had one contract in mind, a final one to steal the deal for good, a contract with Asmodeus, the Lord of Hell. And my DM made him a contract. He needed to keep me alive so Asmodeus could get the divine spark in me, from the devil in the shield, was kind of a demigod. If he did so, Asmodeus would reward him with a second life if he were to die, turning him into the winged tiefling when it happened, with new abilities. When I learned of this, I was horrified by what could happen. He essentially had a god helping him with his schemes. Again, I don't blame the DM for this, as he's now announced that no deals with gods will be made in any of his campaigns ever again. James now had to protect me, but there was one problem. Giving up that divine spark would kill me. That was part of the deal I got when I fused with the shield. It is part of me. If the devil dies, I die. If his soul, the divine spark, was taken out, I die. In the end, the contract with Asmodeus would kill me for good. Not just physically, but literally tear my soul in half and leave me unable to go into an afterlife. Dead. I wasn't going to let him kill me again. Now here's where James did something questionable. I wasn't there for this session, but I was told all about it. They went to Haruman's hill and took a body off the tree. Haruman appeared and entered combat, knocking Aaron's character unconscious immediately. He and Fred fled on a motorcycle, jumping through the realms to try to escape. Now, who do you think took the body off the tree and let it finally die? James. Haruman hated the entire party because of this, and he was very strong, so we needed to find a way to protect ourselves to face him. But I had another idea. Fast forwarding, we encountered a unicorn in a tower. A woman appeared and gave us the option to get the blood of some giant demigod in order to free it. No problem, we'll do that later. And we went to find that demigod, named Uldrax, a powerful being from a realm of warriors who had come to conquer Avernus. Cool, let's go talk to him. We find him easily enough. It's a giant arena in hell. When we meet him, he gave us an option. Fight him for his blood and likely die, or go kill different dragons in an arena show to earn the right to take some of his blood and leave. We chose to kill the dragons. After killing the first dragon, we returned and we were given a spa treatment. Nice. But there was clerics there. The DM had a cleric walk up to James's character and declare he was cursed, and cast Remove Curse, removing his wings and long legs. James was extremely mad at this and immediately killed the cleric, altering Uldrax. Remember, he's as powerful as a demigod. He teleported us out to him and asked who did it. We pointed to James, who was then beaten to a pulp. While doing his death saving throws, I walked over and killed him, knowing that it would get rid of his first life. He came back seconds later in his devilish form. Welcome back. By this time, I was getting insanely tired of the sexual jokes and main character syndrome he had. He always tried to be in the spotlight. Every character moment was his moment, and everyone had to follow his orders. The players were obviously feeling disconnected with the campaign, barely even trying anymore for epic moments or roleplay. It was dying fast. I made a decision then and there to put an end to it, no matter what. This group was amazing. I was friends with all of them now, and we worked well together. We had tried talking to James, but he only got worse and worse with his metagaming and schemes. One time he tried to get the DM to give us a dynamite nuke capable of dealing 60 d6 damage. That was shut down immediately. Then came the fateful day. Me, Fred, the warlock, and James were sitting around. We geared up and I bought some adamant armor. We were in a place where combat wasn't allowed, the only place safe from Haruman, who continued to hunt us. It was then that I stepped outside the bubble of safety. Haruman immediately appeared and critted me, but the adamite armor made it a normal attack. I tanked it and we all began to fight. The three of us threw everything at him and we were winning. Haruman was going to die. It was then that James, in character, pointed to the bubble and shouted, "Stop him from getting to the place we can't hurt him!" Haruman obviously heard this. He quickly flew up, having been knocked into the river Styx, and hit Fred into it, killing his character. But the first death of the campaign, from someone we didn't have to fight if James just didn't take the body off the tree. Fred loved that character, but he took it and accepted it. Haruman then ran into the bubble and taunted us, leading to me ripping into him and declaring a war on just him specifically. My DM allowed me to change to War Cleric for this, and I trained under Fred's new character, a Conquest Paladin. I was going to kill Haruman no matter what to avenge the Warlock, who was a great friend to my Cleric. He was as good as dead. Until I had a thought. You see, we returned to Uldrax to finish off the dragons. We were relatively safe from Haruman when in his presence. James continued to be his usual self and put us all in danger, hogged the spotlight, and tried to get the DM to give him more powerful things, each of which was shut down. With the death of Fred's character, the party just kind of didn't care anymore. Eric had stopped playing Lulu and gotten a new character, a lizard folk rogue, and John returned to give us a boost, playing a golem. But we really just didn't care at that point. Nothing was going to get the campaign back on track. No one could do anything, and we didn't want to kick out a player when we weren't sure if we'd get another one, after so many had left. So we, wrongfully, dealt with it by just continuing to play. But I had had enough. More than enough. James tried to kill me ever since he joined our group, but got another PC killed by his bad call, which now put all of us in constant danger. Did I mention Haruman is Zariel, the BBEG's right-hand man? Oh, she hates us now. Everyone hated us now, all because of one player trying to get what he wanted at the cost of everyone else. And what did he want, you might ask? The ultimate purpose of his goal? He wanted to ascend the ranks of hell to get on the same level as Zariel and rule under Asmodeus. All he needed to do was screw the entire party over again and again. I had enough. It was time to put an end to this. I admit, I did this out of anger and desperation to keep the group together. A fast way to kill the group is to make a game boring, and he had done that for months. I loved the group and wasn't going to allow that. So I spoke to my DM, who was talking about how he hated dealing with James. He was thinking of kicking him out, but that would lead to a lot of drama out of game. Note that this was online and James was in multiple places the DM was when online. I convinced the DM to let me handle it, and I apologized, because I was going to nuke the campaign and end it for everyone. On the next 2 sessions, I got to planning. Harriman hated us because of James. Gideon nearly killed us because of James. Zariel was interested in killing us because of James. Uldrax had nearly killed us because of James. He had a lot of enemies. Now, here's where I should mention the funny part. The final piece of his contract was to play a game of chess over my soul, trapping me in Asmodeus' court to complete the ritual. He wanted to end the game, outside of the game itself. I didn't like that. D&D should stay in D&D, not using chess on a younger person who barely played it. I wasn't even an adult during this, to secure a victory in D&D. He wanted to win against the party, especially me. Again, no. You remember the bag of beans I'd found earlier? I'd never used them. Not until then. When the party was out shopping, I planted the beans in the arena and promised Uldrax a show unlike anything he'd ever seen, one greater than the dragon hunt. He agreed, and I cast Sending, and sent a message to a certain Gideon and Harriman to meet with me. During this time, I rolled on the bag of beans table and got 2 trenets and 3 bullets. Perfect. Now we wait. When the party came back, I said I was sorry. Roll initiative. I was joined by Gideon and Harriman and Gideon's minions, all disguised as people from my cleric's temple. Suddenly, 2 trenets and 3 bullets spawned and chaos erupted in the arena. My party fought for their lives. But what did James do? He cast invisibility on himself and hid. In that fierce battle, he hid. That only angered me more. The battle raged on, and yes, I did this. I called all our enemies that hated James's character and turned against my party. I did this for one reason, to go out with a bang, because after this, the campaign would be over for everyone. I was ending it then and there. No more sexual jokes, no more spotlight hogging, no more anything. They killed my treants and bullets, and I was beginning to lose allies, so I directed my forces. I focused on Aaron's character, using Harriman and Gideon to burst him down. I killed him. I casted Wall of Fire on Fred's character and began killing him. I know what I did was probably wrong, but I had my reasons and I knew the outcome it had a chance of leading to. I still feel bad about it, but I think I did what I had to do without causing out-of-game drama for my DM and other players. I would take whatever came next and deal with it as long as the group stayed together. The next session, the battle continued, but I wasn't there. I was told what happened and shown after. For a quick breakdown, I had Harriman call his lord, Zariel herself. She arrived with a pit fiend. Fred's character died, and he got to control Uldrax, who joined the fray. Baphomet appeared, controlled by Aaron, using the opportunity to kill Zariel and shift the tide of the blood war. And James was no longer invisible. He invoked Asmodeus, and because I wasn't there, the DM allowed for us to be transported to Asmodeus' court. In the end, everyone but Eric's character, me and James, was dead. Zariel was forced to retreat, Uldrax as well, and Baphomet was nearly slain outside of his realm, returning to the Abyss. That just left one last thing. A game of chess. The week after I returned to finish it, James and I booted up an online chess game and played. Now this part was scummy of me, but I was tired of it. I cheated, using an advanced bot to copy his moves and find the best way to win. When I won, he demanded a rematch. We were playing for our souls, after all. Best 2 out of 3. Fine. I couldn't use the advanced bot again because of the game reset, but I didn't need to. What he didn't realize was that I had already won before he sat down. There's a spell named Command, and my character didn't know why we were playing chess, as he had never been told. To him, it was a harmless thing to save us both from dying to the chaos outside. Chess game 2. I cast Command. Forfeit. He fails his wisdom saving throw and tips over his king. The game is over. Both the campaign and chess. He knows it. He tries to argue in character with Asmodeus about how that's against the rules of chess, but chess doesn't mention magic, so it wasn't. He tried arguing out of game, but it was no use. It was his contract whoever loses the game of chess gets their soul split in two and consumed by Asmodeus. He signed a deal with the devil himself. It was finally over. With a massive battle between me and my party, and a chess game outside of D&D itself, Descent into Avernus had ended, and I felt so horrible for quite some time after. But I knew why I did it, and I still stand by it. Say I was wrong, and I'll partially agree. I did wrong things. But you know what happened next? James left. He wasn't kicked, he left. There was no drama like there would have been. Everyone in the group just went back to normal. We got Curse of Strahd and have been playing it ever since March of 2021. We're having a blast. We got 2 new party members who are great players and fun people. I started my own homebrew game and that's going well, and my brother came back to play in it. We play different games together, aside from D&D, and just enjoy everyone in our group. We have roleplay moments and character moments, we have epic battles, and no one has any ill feelings towards anyone. We're playing D&D again, and it feels great. TLDR, a player killed my first character for no reason and I planned revenge. He endangered the party countless times and made constant sexual jokes, turning the campaign into a joke and making it boring. Out of anger and desperation, I came up with a plan to make for the cleanest break and ended up killing my entire party to do so, and our group is so much better after it. Side note, Eric's character survived the final battle. He and my character live in Fandalen, where Fred's wizard from part 1 is. Edit. Yes, I know it was on the DM for allowing this. What I'm really saying is I don't have anything against him, and he's improved. Well, I did ask for more context in the last one. Can't say I didn't get what I asked for. To be honest, I don't really have any thoughts. I think any thoughts I had in the last one were actually kind of addressed or answered for me in this one a little bit more than it was in the first one. I wish a lot of the context that was put into this story could have actually been in that first story. It's a little ridiculous considering how short that one was, and then this one was an absolute behemoth. But I'm not complaining. I'm glad my questions and concerns from the last one were answered. I still think it's important to acknowledge the responsibility your DM has in enabling players like this and allowing it to happen, but seeing as OP understands it, I'm not going to repeat myself this time. Frankly, I'm more curious to hear what you lovely people think out there, so I would love to hear your thoughts about this story in the comments. It certainly was a wild one. With that being said, please leave any kind of comments you want down below. Leave a like, subscribe if you must, if you'd like to see more content like this, and I will see you next time, my lords, ladies, and lieges. Zodiac, out.